Hello and welcome. We've completed 2 more months of our low spend year, and I wanted to give an update on our progress. I think that these updates are a really good way for me to examine my spending and take a look at areas that we can improve in. In my March update, I went over our spending for January and February, and now I'm going to go over all of our spending for March and April. But first, I'll recap our no spend categories. First, we're not spending in home decor or kitchen gadgets. This has been a problem area for us in the past, especially purchasing kitchen appliances that we use once or twice and don't really need. Next is restaurants and takeout food, and then also clothing and personal items, and finally, books and electronics. We can spend to pay our bills and our debts. So we have our mortgage and 3 loans: our car loan, our student loans, and our retirement account loan. We also pay for electricity, internet, and car insurance. The needs categories that we are spending in are car needs like gas, groceries, home maintenance, health, gifts, and baby. We are really trying to purchase only the absolute necessary items in these categories. But as you'll see, I have a bit of a spending problem within some of them. So first of all, I think it is important to reiterate our why for why we are doing this no spend challenge. That way we can focus not on what we're depriving ourselves of, but of our goals that we are working towards. Recently, we have had a big expense come up. We needed to replace our roof, and so we are saving up aggressively in order to pay that off within a year so that we don't have to pay interest on it. We also have to pay for daycare for my daughter, which was not something I was planning to do when we had her in October. I thought that I was going to continue to work remotely most of the time and have my parents help out as needed to watch her. However, I have to be working in person now, and my parents are not going to be able to watch her. So our plans have changed, and we have expensive childcare to squeeze into our budget now. So we are making some temporary sacrifices this year with our low spend challenge so we can pay off our roof without having to pay any interest. We already have enough debts with the loans I mentioned earlier. So hopefully next year and for many years to come, we won't have to cut back drastically. Fortunately, I think that this should be our last major cost for the house in the near future. We are planning a kitchen and bathroom remodel eventually, but that will be after we can save up enough to pay for it in cash. I'm tired of taking on more debt. Okay, moving on to our spending for March. For groceries, we spent $289.92. We spent $289.92, which was under budget, but I definitely bought a bunch of junk at the grocery outlet. We made grocery purchases 10 times in March, and most of that was just me going to the grocery outlet to see what they had and buying stuff that I didn't really need. I think part of the reason why I was going so much was because I wanted to get out of the house because I was a little bit bored being home all day long. But now that I'm back at work, I won't be going out as much. For car, we had a lot of spending in March. We spent $980.47. And this was because I had to get new tires and a new battery for my car. Also, my husband had to renew his driver's license. So we spent a lot in this category, but we still kept a positive balance in our sinking fund. For home, we spent $159.20 in March. And I think we were probably fixing up some stuff or purchasing stuff to prepare our garden. I'd have to go back and watch my March budget recap to see if I mentioned exactly what we spent this money on. But I know it wasn't anything really fun. Oh, I bought some glass food storage containers from the thrift store when I saw them there because that was something that we had been looking for a while now. In the baby category, we spent $722.48. Most of this spending, about 2/3, was for her nursery renovation, which I mentioned in my March update that we decided to put the renovations in the baby sinking fund because we had much more money in that fund than in the home fund, even though the purchases could have gone to either category because it was like baseboards and other necessities for the renovation and not like decorations. The other about third of that spending was a little bit of clothes because she was growing out of all of her 3 month and 6 month clothes in March. So I made some purchases from the thrift store. And also, we had our initial deposit for daycare in March. So, in the low spend categories, I made some purchases, and one of those was in restaurants. I bought takeout for my husband's birthday. That was a total of $38.06. And in personal, I spent $16.01. That was also partially for my husband's birthday. Um, but I made some purchases on Amazon and we don't have Prime, so I had to meet the minimum purchase threshold in order to get free shipping. And I also had a gift card from donating blood, so I had to buy some replacement heads for my toothbrush in order to meet that minimum purchase threshold for the free shipping. And so I just put that entire purchase in the personal category. So that was all of our spending for March. In April, it was a very tight month. If you've seen any of my budgets or recaps, you will know that my take home pay was very low for the month of April because of a payroll mistake that I made in the beginning of March. For April, we did not spend on any categories outside of groceries, car and gas, and baby. But again, I made extra grocery purchases that were not necessities, especially at the beginning of the month before I went back to work. Now that I'm going over all of these purchases for my no spend update, I'm realizing that all of those grocery trips have added up. They were mostly $10 to $15 trips, but they have really added up. Going forward, I think we need to not go to the grocery outlet quite as much so I can avoid purchasing items that we don't need. We went to the grocery store a total of 12 times and spent $342.03. Again, this is a little bit under budget. However, I would like to only be spending on food that we absolutely need instead of buying some junk food that we don't. For car, I bought gas one time this month in April, and it was actually the first time that I've bought gas for my car this entire year, and probably even some of last year. I spent $30.90 on a tank of gas. Now that I'm driving to work, our gas purchases will go up a little bit because my drive to daycare and work is about 35 to 40 miles each way. And I'm doing that 3 days a week now, and soon it will be 5 days. But I drive a plug-in hybrid, so I use mostly electricity on shorter trips, which is why I haven't had to buy gas all year. And for baby, we spent $598.26. Almost all of that was for daycare. I had bought her a lot of clothes in March, so she didn't really need any more. And I didn't visit the thrift stores quite as often in April because I was at work more often and my daughter hadn't grown out of all of her clothes. She now has a bunch of 6 to 9 month clothes that I think should hopefully fit her for another month or two. So we didn't spend anything in any of the no spend categories in April, and I'm pretty proud of that. I think it's getting a little bit easier as the challenge goes on to be a bit more conscious about spending money on items that we don't need. We've been going outside and enjoying the nice weather with walks and hikes and working in the garden. I've also read 15 books so far this year, all of them from the library. Let me know in the comments if you're doing a low spend year or month, or if you have done one in the past. What are some of your tips and tricks for making it easier or more fun? If you're interested in more updates about my low spend year, or would like to see how we budget or spend our money, then please hit subscribe and follow along. Thank you for being here.